Good evening. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight, and we invite participation either remotely or in person. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. The open session part of the meeting will begin at around 7 p.m. Before going into closed session, the board is available for public comment on closed session agenda items. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment on closed session agenda items?
There is no public comment on closed session items.
Thank you. Seeing that there are none, the board will now adjourn into closed session. Good evening. My name is Eve Reiser, and this is the Napa Valley Unified School District Board of Education. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight, and we invite participation either remotely or in person. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. Interpretation in Spanish is available for tonight's virtual board meeting. Our interpreters are Francisco Mesa and Losha Soriana. One of the interpreters will now translate the directions on our English channel so our Spanish-speaking families may hear the instructions.
Buenas noches. Esta es una reunión de la Junta de Educación del Distrito Escolar Unificado del Valle de Napa. La reunión de hoy va a tener servicios de interpretación en español. Para poder acceder al canal de interpretación, en un momento van a ver en la parte de abajo de su pantalla en Zoom el símbolo del globo terráqueo. Por favor, hagan clic ahí y bajo Language Interpretation o Interpretación de Idioma, elija Spanish o Español. Si está en Zoom, en un celular, busquen 3 puntitos que dicen More o Más en la pantalla de Zoom y haga clic ahí para activar la función de interpretación en español. Gracias.
Thank you. Can we please start with an attendance roll call from Vera Morales, Executive Assistant?
Yes. Trustee Reiser?
Present.
Trustee Shu?
Present.
Trustee Gracia?
Present.
Trustee Jankowicz?
Present.
Trustee Hart?
Present.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Present.
Quorum present. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. Quorum present. Okay. Thank you for joining us tonight for our NVUSD board meeting. E1, report on closed session. Trustee Chu, do you have a report on closed session agenda items?
I do. With respect to item D1, student discipline. With respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Ed Code 35146 and 48912:20, Government Code Section 49060 and 49078, and the Family Rights and Privacy Act, USC Section 1232G, Student Matters. A, expulsions. The board recommends for the expulsion for student 10102024A.
Move to expel.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And can we get a roll call vote, Ms. Morales?
Yes. Trustee Reiser?
Aye.
Trustee Shu?
Aye.
Trustee Gracia?
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz?
Aye.
Trustee Hart?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. And now E2, flag salute. Can I ask our student trustee, Graydon, to lead us in our flag salute? Thank you. E3, announcement. This meeting is live streamed and recorded via Zoom and will be archived on the district YouTube channel. For a detailed review of any meeting agenda item, the archived video can be referenced on the district's webpage at nvusd.org. The process for public comment can also be found on the district's webpage. E4, approval of agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from trustee Gracia, a second from trustee Hart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. E5, approval of minutes. E5A, September 12th, 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Abstentions?
I abstain.
Trustee Chu abstains. Okay, thank you. E5B, September 25th, 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, first by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Chu. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares abstains. Thank you. E5C, September 26th, 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. E6, recognition of visitors and employee organizations. Dr. Massetti, do we have any visitors in attendance?
Yes, thank you, Vice President Reiser. We have no visitors from our employee organizations, but at the last board meeting, the board approved the appointment of Dr. Martha Martin as interim principal at McPherson Elementary. She was unable to attend due to an obligation at the school itself, and she's here this evening, and she would like to take tonight as an opportunity to address the board and thank the board for the appointment. Dr. Martin, would you like to unmute and address the board?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I just want to take this moment to thank our distinguished board members and Dr. Massetti for the opportunity to continue the hard work at McPherson Magnet Community School. It's an honor to serve as interim principal and to continue the hard work of our shared commitment to transforming our student and community lives. It's an exciting time. We have our STEAM magnet, we have our community school magnet, and we have our literacy magnet, and we're all working in unison in alignment to just transforming our opportunities. I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much, Ms. Martin. We're so happy to have you in that role. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item F, recognition of students of the month. We'll begin with Valley Oak High School. Will Principal Cisneros please present the students of the month for Valley Oak?
Good evening. It's great to be here. It's great to be back today. The third Wednesday of the month is always the fun part because I start the Student of the Month Marathon at 7 in the morning with the Sunrise Rotary, and then I end with you. So it's really exciting. And I don't know, Cindy, Trustee Water, just because she won something at the college, she doesn't get to be here tonight? I don't know. We're going to have a little conversation. Well, it's wonderful to be back. It is October, and it feels like the semester is just flying like crazy. A lot's going on at Valley Oak, but what's important tonight is our students that we're going to recognize. So I'm going to bring up Hannah. Would you please come up? As I talked to the teachers and to share a little bit about Hannah, I kind of combined their comments, and they said Hannah is an exceptional individual and leader who embodies authenticity, maturity, and self-confidence. Her ability to embrace her uniqueness while excelling academically truly sets her apart from her peers. Beyond her academic achievements, Hannah's talents extend into the creative arts, demonstrating her versatility and original thinking. What makes her even more remarkable is her self-awareness and adaptability, qualities that define her as a true leader. We celebrate Hannah's well-rounded attributes, intelligence, creativity, and generosity, as she gave a lot of support to her classmates, and acknowledge the lasting impact she has made to those around her. Having graduated in October, she graduated October 4th. She is now preparing to continue her academic journey at the community college. Though she will be greatly missed on our campus, we are incredibly proud of all your accomplishments and look forward to seeing what you achieve next. And I know it's going to be grand. You ready? Okay.
Hello, my name is Hannah Root. It's an honor to be here.
First, I want to thank the school board, Dr. Musetti, and the Napa Valley Education Foundation for this recognition. I also want to thank Mrs. Cisneros and Ms. Litza, who have come to support me today. I grew up with many challenges, which helped me to grow and shaped me into the person I've become today. In earlier years of my life, I witnessed some things that have helped me become more open-minded, empathetic, and understanding. My family is not a stranger to mental health challenges, and I can closely sympathize with others who face similar battles. I've also moved around a bit. Some schools worked out and some schools haven't. Dealing with social anxiety has been a huge roadblock, and I struggle to advocate for myself sometimes. Valley Oak, a smaller school, helped me ease out of my shell. High school can be a very stressful time in someone's life, and I am willing to be a friend or helping hand to anyone who needs one. Although I struggle with social anxiety, I push myself to participate in events where I can meet other people that may have the same interests as me. For example, I was the only student that participated in the Northern California Friday Night Live conference at ACHS last year. There, I not only learned about different issues, but I also met some others who are now my friends. My personal interests include mortuary science, anime, and my favorite animal is a fox. I'm an artist and enjoy drawing animals and people. My main goal moving forward is to study mortuary science and eventually become a mortician. I am also very interested in fashion and cultivating my own style. In closing, I want to thank you all again for this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
Hi.
All right. Our next student, Patricia Mesa Rivera. Patricia is a senior at Valley Oak High School and is nearing her graduation in just a few months. Since joining Valley Oak, her academic progress has improved significantly, not just in her grades, but also in her confidence and belief in her potential. Early on, as she began to fall behind, Patty felt that college was no longer an option for her, as the opportunity seemed to be slipping away. However, after she transferred to Valley Oak, and with the unwavering support of her family, the staff, and teachers at Valley Oak High School, she found her voice and became engaged in her studies and stepped into leadership roles. When I asked Patty about her experience with the coursework at Valley Oak, she acknowledged that while the work is demanding, the teachers make it accessible and easier to understand. Patricia now serves as president of the Golden Acorns Club, a key campus organization that helps coordinate and execute our ELAC meetings on our campus. Patricia's remarkable growth, leadership, and her dedication are a source of immense pride for Valley Oak, and we look forward to the continued success and contributions that she undoubtedly will make in the future. So without further ado, Patricia, are you ready? Okay.
Hi, my name is Patricia Mesa, and I want to start by saying thank you to the Board of Trustees, Dr. Muchetti, Napa Valley Education Foundation, and Valley Oak High School for this opportunity, but mostly to my parents, Patricio Mesa and Jenna Rivera, for giving me everything they could and for believing me in no matter what. I am where I am right now because of the support of my family and school staff. I am a senior at Valley Oak High School and will be graduating on November 22nd. I've overcome many struggles, such as becoming to attend class or being able to pass a course. The transfer to Valley Oak has changed school for me. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I would like to thank Ms. Markle and Veronica Gomez, especially for being such a big support while I've been attending Valley Oak and helping me with obstacles. Valley Oak has helped me become a better person for myself and the community. I am currently president of the Golden Acorns, and with that comes great responsibility. We've partnered with Friday Night Live organizations and have received the Betting on Our Future grant. Our responsibilities are to educate youth and the community on the dangers of underage gambling. I have recorded a PSA in both English and Spanish at Napa Valley TV, reminding retailers not to sell to underage gamblers and reminding adults to gamble responsibly. I want to thank the school board for approving the grant. The funding allows the Golden Acorns to celebrate our achievements. As I am about to graduate, I want to study business at Solano College while taking general education class at the Napa Valley College. My career goal is to become a real estate agent, and I will be starting classes this upcoming spring semester. Thank you for the NVUSD School Board and the Napa Valley Education Foundation for this recognition.
Don't leave yet, okay?
All right, changing the hat. Now I'm here for Napa Valley Independent Studies. Leonardo, can you come up? Leonardo Aviña Garcia is our NVIS September Student of the Month. His teacher shares with us and is enrolled at NVIS during the spring semester of your freshman year. I didn't realize you were with us that long. That's wonderful. Leo has demonstrated remarkable dedication in his academic progress and is on track to graduate either on time or ahead of his scheduled senior. Despite the possibility of accelerating his learning, Leo has chosen to prioritize the depth of understanding over speed, reflecting his commitment to a meaningful educational experience. He has consistently maintained a grade point average of 3.0 since he joined NVIS and continues to earn full credit in his classes. Leo's intellectual curiosity and thoughtful approach to his studies are evident in the insightful contributions he regularly offers in class discussions, enriching the learning environment for his peers. His teacher, Mrs. Lucero, has expressed immense pride in his growth and is confident that Leo will continue to make positive contributions in his community. So congratulations. And are you ready? Okay.
Well, I want to thank my parents first for being so encouraging and always supporting me, and the Board of Education, Napa Valley Education Foundation, Napa Valley Independent Studies, and my teacher, Mrs. Lucero. She's been really supportive and always encouraging me to go further, do a little bit more. And I'm just really grateful that my efforts were recognized. Yeah.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
All right, our October Student of the Month is Dariana Ramirez Rodriguez. Come on up. And we actually have her teacher, Ms. Wilson, in the audience today, so it's wonderful. Dariana is a junior at NVIS at American Canyon High School. She is on track to graduate by the end of the academic year and embarked in the next phase of life. Her teacher, Mrs. Wilson, describes Dariana as the embodiment of dedication, perseverance, and academic excellence. Since joining NVIS, she has demonstrated an exceptional passion for learning, tackling complex subjects, actively participating in discussions, and bringing a consistently positive, enthusiastic attitude to the classroom. What truly distinguishes Dariana is her character. She exemplifies kindness, respect, and integrity, and seamlessly balancing her life responsibilities by upholding her personal and academic standards. This recognition is a testament to her hard work, passion, and genuine love for learning. Mrs. Wilson feels both proud and honored to be her teacher and eagerly anticipates the bright future that lies ahead for Dariana as an early graduate. Congratulations. She's a little nervous, so let's give her a big...
Good afternoon. Thank you Napa Valley Education Foundation, NVUSD School Board Superintendent Dr. Musetti, and NVIS for providing me with opportunities to reach my goals. I'd like to thank my parents for pushing me to do my best in school. And I'd like to say this in Spanish to my parents. Gracias, ma y pa, porque ustedes siempre se han esforzado muchísimo para seguir con mis sueños y sus esfuerzos no serán en vano. Se los prometo. Give me a second. As a first-generation daughter of immigrant parents and upcoming college graduate, I am proud to say that I am taking advantage of all the education opportunities this district has given me. It took me pure discipline and dedication, even though at times it was hard. Even if there is no motivation to get my work done, I forced myself to not procrastinate. I overcame my struggles with the support of my best teacher, Miss Wilson, because she always tells us to eat our biggest frogs first, meaning do the things you hate doing first so you don't have to do it later. My experience at NVIS has been absolutely amazing. I am able to get my work done with no distractions, which led me to getting an award tonight. I am extremely grateful for this school because it has brought out the best version of myself academically with all the support and guidance from the schools I have attended, my parents, and Miss Wilson, and I'm setting my sights on to starting my own brand supply business in manufacturing lash extension inks, supplies, and applications. I will be graduating a year early so that I can start at NVC in the fall of 2025, focusing on business and entrepreneurship. Thank you once again for this amazing honor.
All right, congratulations to you all, and thank you again. Have a good night.
Congratulations to all the students of the month. Thank you so much, Principal Cisneros. Okay, moving on to G, public comment on non-agenda items. Trustee Chu, did we receive any public comment on non-agenda items via email?
No public comment on non-agenda items were submitted via email at publiccomment@nvusd.org before 8 a.m. this morning.
Okay. Okay, and then we do have some public comment here in the boardroom. I'll start with Norma Ortiz, the student.
Hello, good evening. My name is Norma Ortiz Barraza, and I'm a current 10th grade student at Napa High School. I never imagined I'd have to discuss the topic of bullying in today's diverse society.
I'm so sorry, Norma. I just need to interrupt you for one. Now it has started the timer. I just wanted to make sure we were keeping track of that. Can we reset for 3 minutes? And I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead and start again from the beginning.
I never imagined I'd have to discuss the topic of bullying in today's diverse society, but it appears that this diversity hasn't led to equal treatment for all youths. I also recognize that bullying is a problem not confined to just schools, but it's an issue that extends beyond. Nonetheless, it's important to remember that bullying isn't an issue without a solution. While it's true that school staff can't completely control the behavior of individuals or the social environments they face when it's not reported, they can play a significant role in monitoring and reducing it. Additionally, school staff can improve their ability to solve problems effectively. I'm suggesting that bullying deserves more attention from adults in educational settings. Achieving change requires the collective effort of many. Thank you. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. Okay, the next comment, Alexa Solorzado.
Good afternoon, Board
of Education Superintendent. My name is Alexis Lorzano, and I go to Browns Valley K-8 school. I am attending today's board meeting because I think there should be more changes at our school. I think that our school staff should have more communication and clarity with expectations and more curriculum, understand us when needed, and listen to our perspectives, creating spaces where all students, including myself, feel heard, including supported, to make sure that we feel welcomed, motivated, and eager to learn each and every day. I feel that our principals should make more efforts in making students feel more comfortable and confident to speak up, rather than disregard what we need to say at times, and also be equal to all students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next commenter, Norma Ortiz, the parent.
Hello, good evening, Board of Education and the Napa community as a whole. My name is Norma Ortiz. I please ask that as part of your agenda items, you please spend more time addressing a responsive approach in regards to bullying that students and parents report from different school sites to ensure the safety and emotional well-being of all students. I have concerns as a family and community member for items that have been brought to my attention which continue to take place at Browns Valley Elementary. But it seems like Measure B is taking much more of your time and energy rather than these more serious items. The district should continue to focus on implementing more proactive approaches regarding the safety of our students, so this can make their learning experience pleasant, comfortable, and rewarding. Gang-related activities, behaviors such as threats, violence of any nature, which are prohibited, should be monitored and fully addressed. As a parent and community member, I please ask that the district send information on their plan of action and how they respond to incidents of this nature, prevention strategies, and more that are crucial for the social-emotional development of many students, especially elementary and middle school students, so they feel safe and for greater educational outcomes. It is important that all departments continue to work together to ensure that all students feel welcomed, appreciated, and motivated to come to school, because if our children are happy, we are too. Individuals that work with students have a duty of care to listen, take appropriate and reasonable action, and validate students' feelings, and not take sides, show favoritism, or retaliate when students attempt and or try to speak up for themselves and others. Staff should make it clear that there are protected spaces for students to reach out to them when needed to voice their feedback and concerns, and where adults are empathetic about these situations. They must always demonstrate professional behavior while interacting with students, not make inappropriate remarks and hurtful comments to any student, whether it be intentional or not, mismanaging feelings of frustration to their personal life, perhaps, events that anyone may be going through, for example, like a divorce. Please timely act, address, intervene to make students' learning experience be a better one. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we invite Scarlett Solorzano.
Hello, good evening, Board and Education Superintendent. My name is Scarlett Solorzano. I am an 8th grade student at Browns Valley School. I would like to say that I am eager to learn every day, lead with examples, interact with my classmates, participate in sports, crafts, arts, music, baking, and dream high. Coming from Latino parents, they have installed in me that education is important. We start going to school at a very young age and spend an average of 7 hours Monday through Friday because we went We want to become people who, with our creative abilities, impact our society in positive ways and achieve the career of our choice. And I am aware that this is a process and that it takes hard work and determination. Investing in my education is a priority for my family and myself. I want to do so many things in life, but at the same time, I am still learning how to have a voice and successfully be heard, especially from those who have a position of power and can make a difference in my life as a student. I wake up with a positive smile and joy every day, thanking God that I have another day to learn something new. I want to become a lawyer someday. I am working on that long-term goal today. But for that to become a possibility, I need to first finish my middle school, then my high school, to then graduate from a university as a student. We need that you work, all of us, to make our learning spaces comfortable. In that sense, that not just some adults, but all school staffs keep us safe and hear our concerns and feedbacks in a professional way. And without judgment, without taking sides, and validating our feelings and positions in meaningful and respectful ways that may help us in our learning and social emotional well-being. Please take more action in bring awareness and prevention about bullying. I sincerely hope that our principal at Browns Valley can be more approachable, as I have been struggling to be heard with a solution to my concerns. Thank you for your attention and time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, that concludes the public comment of participants who are here in the room. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment online on non-agenda items?
There is no public comment online on non-agenda items.
Okay, thank you very much. And so now we move on to H, reports. H1, Board of Education and Student Board Representative. Shall we start with Student Board Member Graydon?
Good evening, everyone. I hope you all had an amazing day. On October 3rd, I had the pleasure of joining Dr. Musetti, President Water, Trustees Garcia and Jankowicz, Principal Hatton, and California School Board Association President Albert Gonzalez on a tour they were finishing up at my high school, American Canyon High School. I had the opportunity to share with them an activity I'm planning to do with the students on my campus to get a better idea of what they need, not only from our school, but from our district. In collaboration with Principal Hatton, we are planning to have some of our students participate in a focus group where we will have a discussion framed around the 3-school activity. The 3-school activity is a piece of paper given to students that has 3 empty buildings. The buildings are labeled School of Worries, School of Good Things, and School of Dreams. The students are able to express how they feel about school either using art or words. After they have filled out the paper, we would have a discussion about it. I had the opportunity to conduct this activity in my Avid 12 class, and it went really well. Some of the worries they shared were hiring teachers, school shootings and fights, bathroom closures, and the lack of consideration for student opinions. Some good things that were shared are class and elective variety, the Wellness Center, community service opportunities, and Bagel Day. Some dreams that were shared include a wider range of language classes, for example, sign language or French, unlocked bathrooms, internship opportunities, and major specific electives. I plan to also conduct this activity in Mr. Ureña's ELD classes next week. Currently, over 40 students are interested in participating in these focus groups. I sent out a form to the entire student body and asked teachers to nominate students who are actively involved and students who may be struggling academically, socially, or who may not be as actively involved in school activities or sports or arts. I want all voices to be heard, no matter who you are. This activity also aligns with NVUSD's Vision 2040. It falls under the umbrella of family and community involvement, inclusivity and belonging, innovative and collaborative solution seeker, as well as this sentence. Our graduates are confident, compassionate, and adaptable adults who are well prepared for life and become inspiring advocates for themselves and their community. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Student Trustee Graydon. Trustee Gonzalez-Morris?
Yeah, I can go next. Thank you. I know prior to the board starting, you were sharing with me as you were reviewing that input. So really good information that you gathered there. For me, it was just a really kind of quiet couple of weeks. I know later on in the agenda, we'll have the board representative reports on my attendance to the city of Napa. But one of the things that I was just really happy to attend community-wide, I had not had a chance to go to a Latino Heritage Month kind of event or activity. It's been really busy. But at the Napa Library, there is an art exhibition by the photographer Is Valencia on the native sun leaves, which was a pretty cool presentation of photo printing that took him hours to the grape leaves of farm workers, but mainly representing the indigenous community that are every day participating in the process of our land in regards to agriculture. So just you step into the library, really impressive display of just history and a piece of recognition that represents our Napa community. So thank you.
Wonderful. Trustee Hart.
All right. So I got an opportunity to visit our newest middle school, Unidos, and speak with Principal Alejandra Uribe on the 2nd, which was great. I'm looking forward to having my youngest child attend there next year. And she's also pretty excited for that opportunity as well. On the 4th, I got to attend Big Game 53. And even though I am a Napa High graduate, I have to congratulate Vintage on their crushing of Napa High this year. On the 8th, I got to go to Northwood and visit with Principal Suzanne Flint and tour several classrooms there as well and check out their new sunshade that's just recently been installed. On the 8th, also in the afternoon, we had the City of Napa joint meeting. This morning, I attended the annual high school breakfast out at Napa Valley College, which was very informative. And then last, I'd like to finish out my report by acknowledging October as being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is a time to acknowledge domestic violence survivors and provide a voice for its victims. Domestic violence is prevalent in every community and affects all people regardless of age, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or nationality. Physical violence is often accompanied by emotional abuse and controlling behavior as part of a much larger systematic pattern of dominance and control. Domestic violence can result in physical injury, physiological trauma, and even death. The devastating consequences of domestic violence can cross generations and last for a lifetime. Unfortunately, we had a horrible incident very recently here in Napa, which sadly shows that while we live in an amazing and supportive community, we are not exempt from the effects of domestic violence. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Hart. Trustee Jankowicz.
Good evening. I continue my participation in the facilities meetings on Fridays. I need to express my gratitude to the technology department and their help desk. While I've been having difficulty with my NVUSD account, the tech associate identified my issue and patiently worked to find a solution. I need to own that it was operator error, but I do want to say that we have a great asset in our tech department, the best. Thank you very much. I had a good and informative meeting with Principal Hutchinson at Vintage High School. I'd like to take a brief moment to share some of the highlights of the good work that she shared with me at VHS. In their Healthy Kids Survey over a 3-year period, 2021 to 2024, in school connectedness, 9th grade went from 53% to 59%. 11th grade went from 48% to 56%. And in the caring adult relationship was really important. 9th grade went from 52% to 62%, and 11th grade went from 61% to 69%. In 2024, of the 368 students in AP, 74% received a 3 or higher. I really wish President Water was here. And in the class of 2024, there were only 3 non-graduates. What I really appreciated is when I went, she had a little portfolio of data to celebrate what had been happening over at Vintage. So Thank you very much to Principal Hutchinson. And then the AAUW, the American Association of University Women, hosted an event at the Napa County Library featuring Dr. Massetti and Assistant Superintendent Manguala, who gave an excellent facilities planning presentation. They discussed the current state of our facilities, our needs, the state funding mechanism or lack thereof, and addressed many thoughtful questions. It was nice to see this level of community engagement. I attended the Town of Yountville and NVUSD meeting. They are doing some innovative things to create engagement with their community and the site, and Trustee Gracia will be reporting on our visit. Dr. Musetti, President Water, Trustee Gracia, and myself welcomed CSBA President Albert Gonzalez to visit some of our schools, and we had the pleasure of highlighting our dual language immersion track and visiting schools in both Napa and American Canyon. I want to say a thank you to Principal Hatton at American Canyon High School. Thank you to Principal, is it Dila Mater? I just call her Megan Mater, okay, at Napa Junction Elementary. Thank you to Principal Roca at Pueblo Vista. Thank you to Principal Uribe at Unidos Middle School. And thank you to Susan Miller, who stood in for Principal Ainsworth at Napa High School. And a huge thank you to Mr. Gonzalez, who gave generously of his time and shared his perspective. I was very, very proud of NVUSD. I attended the Little Big Game and half of the big game. Sorry, Trustee Gracia. It was nice to see old friends and familiar faces, so congratulations to all the athletes. I had a delightful visit with Principal Linneman at West Park Elementary School. We spoke about the educational shift that has occurred over the last 20 years. I got to visit a kindergarten class with 20 active kindergartners, all engaged with lots of energy, but all focused on the work and play before them. We had the City of Napa and NVUSD meeting. It was a really good meeting, and the city updated us on their current issues, and we talked to them about school safety, facilities, field improvements, and a brief overview of our strategic plan, and then continued community engagement. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Gracia?
Yes. On the 28th through the 29th, I attended the CSBA Board of Directors meeting. And then on the 1st, I attended part of the NCOE board meeting, but had to leave early so I could also attend the AAUW meeting. And then on the 2nd, I attended the meeting with the Town of Yountville. On the 3rd, I also was at the tour with CSBA President Gonzalez. We visited American Canyon High School, New Napa Junction, Pueblo Vista, Unidos, and Napa High. And then on the 4th, I attended the big game. Yep, the whole thing. And then on the 10th today, I attended the Napa Valley College breakfast, where we got to learn quite a bit and took a little tour of their new dorm facilities. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Chu?
Yes, good evening. So on October 1st, I listened in on the Napa County Board of Education meeting. On October 3rd, actually Trustee Reiser and I went to attend the American Canyon Mayoral and City Council Candidates Forum, and it's important because we sit on the 2x2 committee with the City of American Canyon, and after this election, there will probably be changes on the 2x2 committee, so we thought it was important for us to go and hear the candidates to learn more about them. On October 5th, I attended the Fall Wetlands Coffee Morning and Discovery Day with Trustee Reiser again. It was really great to see all the kids exploring the wetlands in American Canyon. And I actually want to also give a shout out to the American Canyon Community and Parks Foundation, because they will also be sponsoring for every 7th grader at ACMS. They're going to take them out to the wetlands as a field trip. So I got to kind of experience a little bit of what they might see out there through their, they have a trailer that has a really great science setup. That evening, I attended the Manila Munchies with Trustee Reiser, which is a new, hopefully annual, maybe biannual, Filipino food truck rally organized by actually several district parents, and with some food trucks that were owned and operated by former students. And so that's always fun to go out into the community and just, share food. On October 8th, I attended the Canyon Oaks PTO meeting. I try to do that a couple times a year just to check in with the school and the parents. And this time, I thought it was important to share the NVUSD trustee boundaries. Since the last time they voted, well, I wasn't on the ballot because I was not opposed, but they will see it this time. They may be in my area or in area 4. So I thought it was important for them to know that we actually have 2 areas that they might be voting for. As a byproduct of that, I actually got to tour the new outdoor space because that had just opened up to all the students. So I hope when the ribbon cutting arrives, I hope all of our board members here will attend because it is fantastic. We had a group of students that were on campus because their parents were at the PTO meeting, and they demonstrated how they would use the space. And it's really cute. And they all said they really like having that outdoor learning space and the canopies and the additional lunch areas. So thank you to the voters of A2. And this morning, I attended the 2x2 meeting with City of American Canyon, Councilman Pierre Washington and Mark Joseph, along with Trustee Reiser, which we'll report on later. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's see, a lot of repeats here, but I will be brief. On September 27th, I had the opportunity to have my one-on-one governance check-in with Dr. Massetti. That's something we do about quarterly. It's always a nice way to touch base and check in about different issues that the board considers. On September 29th, I participated in a really amazing event that was at Westwood Hills here in Napa called the Napa Day Against Hate. It was organized in part by our city councilwoman, Beth Painter. And the other organizer was Mr. Tracy Main, who is the man who came up with a wonderful, positive response to the difficult community situation we have where a private citizen has a marquee in his front yard and uses it to post egregiously racist and anti-Semitic and anti-LGBTQ messages on there. And so Mr. Main's response was to rent and then eventually, I think, purchase with some help a U-Haul truck that parks right in front of that house. And it says, "Hate is not a Napa value" on the side of it. So I was happy to get to meet Mr. Main and thank him for his creative and positive and nonviolent response. But it was just a very heartwarming gathering. There were probably 100, 150 people there, elected officials, citizens. And it was really something that I hope that becomes an annual. They said first annual, so I think that this will be an annual event. So I was proud of the community response and participation there. And we did have the Napa High Choir sing at that event. So thank you to them for their performance. I'm sorry, it was the Vintage Choir, not Napa High, Vintage Choir. On October 3rd, as Trustee Chu said, I attended the American Canyon Chamber of Commerce sponsored candidate forum to hear the platforms of the City Council and mayoral candidates in American Canyon. On the 5th, as Trustee Chu mentioned, we did the Wetlands Coffee sponsored by the American Canyon Park Foundation. I had a really wonderful time interacting with citizens in the community, and I was talking with a volunteer at the booth. And then it turned out, she said, "Oh, wait, you came to my classroom." And she's one of our NVUSD teachers at Donaldson, Kathy Margolotti. Margolotti. I really enjoyed talking with Ms. Margolotti and other folks. I feel a little bit like an honorary American Canyon citizen, even though I don't reside there. So thank you for that. Then that night also was the Manila Munchies night, kind of like a Manila night market. And the American Canyon High School Choir sang there. And I really got goosebumps when one of the students introduced them to the crowd and spoke in Tagalog. And the reaction from the crowd that was gathered there just really made me feel so good about the school community connection. And it was really a great event. So many thanks to everyone who organized that. This morning we had our American Canyon 2x2, which we'll report out on later. And then last, I'm just going to close by first of all, thanking Trustee Hart for acknowledging October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's a hard topic it's a heavy topic to talk about, but we have to talk about it and raise awareness. And there was the intersection of domestic violence and gun violence in the incident that shattered a section of our community 2 weeks ago today. I also want to acknowledge that today is World Mental Health Day, and there is a connection there between domestic violence and gun violence and mental health. I wanted to thank our Student of the Month, Hannah, for her openness and vulnerability, talking about her own struggles with anxiety. Many people that I know and hold dear struggle with their mental health as well. And on this World Mental Health Day, I want to say that I'm proud of our district for the resources and attention and focus that we've put on supporting students as best we can within our limited resources in taking care of their mental health. And I think that we are helping our students, and they're helping us really too, change the culture around talking about mental health, because mental health is health. So we need to continue to support each other and ourselves in normalizing talking about that. And that concludes my report. Dr. Massetti? So sorry, the board representative reports. So we have the Special Education Community Advisory Committee.
We have not met.
Okay. And the City of American Canyon liaison.
Yes, so we met this morning, and most of our discussion focused around facilities use. I think I shared with you previously that there were some questions about how MBUSD is allowing public use of facilities. It's a complicated issue because our priority is, of course, the safety of students, and so the city recognizes and appreciates that. So there's still a lot of work to be done, and so that's an ongoing discussion. And that's mainly it.
Okay, wonderful. And then the City of Napa Liaison Committee.
We met earlier this week. We discussed a number of topics, including Rob Minguala provided an update on the MBUSD field improvement strategy. The City of Napa spoke to us about traffic safety, including a number of grants that they've received, and some paving projects that are going to be taking place to include safety and traffic calming near Browns Valley Elementary, near Unidos Middle School, and NVLA. Rosanna Musetti, Dr. Musetti went over some school safety issues, and then we also talked about the grand jury report and followed up on some of the issues that were brought up in that report.
Great, thank you. Town of Yountville.
Yes, we did meet. We held our meeting up in Yountville, where we had a great opportunity to discuss what they're currently doing with the property formerly known as Yountville Elementary School. It appears they have some great new operations, like a dog park, and are rapidly renovating some of the buildings to make them better suited for the people in the town of Yountville. They also notified us they're going to be keeping the Wall of Hands exhibit on the backside of the school, which seemed like a very cool way to honor its previous use and existence. And that concludes my report.
That's great. Thank you so much. Okay, now 3, Superintendent and Executive Staff.
Great, thank you, Vice President Vice President Reiser. Good evening, NVUSD Board of Trustees, staff, and community. It's been a busy couple of weeks since our last board meeting. I've started my second round of school visits with our site principals. I've been to American Canyon High School, Canyon Oaks, McPherson, Shear, Browns Valley, and NVLA. At ACHS, I enjoyed spending time with our new principal, Karen Hatton. Many of you have already mentioned her in your comments, discussing the work that she's doing to build upon the strengths and positive caring culture that exists at ACHS. It's always exciting to engage with a new principal who's enthusiastic about the hard work ahead. At Canyon Oaks, I had the opportunity to be present on the first day that the new outdoor learning areas were made available to our Mighty Oaks alongside Principal Stephanie Vasquez. We want to thank the voters and supporters of the 2022 Measure A2 School Bond and Tax Measure, as Trustee Chu did, that's already taking the American Canyon school facilities to the next level. I'm excited about an upcoming ribbon cutting event that we will host there to celebrate the initial Measure A2 facility improvement project at Canyon Oaks and also the painting of American Canyon High School. So please stay tuned for that future announcement. At McPherson, I visited primary classrooms with Principal Dr. Martha Martin, who you heard from earlier in the board meeting, and I observed their new differentiated literacy groups. Primary students start their day first thing in the morning in a targeted literacy classroom to work on their specific decoding, word recognition, and comprehension skills at their specific level in order to increase their reading proficiency. I spoke to the teachers on special assignment on the campus that same day, and they proudly informed me that they've already observed accelerated growth on the STAR literacy data, which you'll hear about tonight from Dr. Aboud, after their first 6-week cycle of targeted literacy instruction by level. My visit at Shear Elementary with Principal Noreen Montgomery provided me with an opportunity to observe teachers delivering targeted ELD instruction. We also spent time in kindergarten classrooms as teachers also focused on teaching reading skills and strategies to our youngest learners. I enjoyed my discussions with Principal Montgomery about the Career Readiness Program we are preparing to launch there as a part of the Magnet Grant implementation. To sum up my observations during school visits, I wanted to thank Principals Arisbeth Corro of NBLA and Principal Mishak Osborne of Browns Valley, who both guided me through a tour of mostly third grade classrooms at their two respective schools. I was excited to hear how both principals are planning data dive sessions with their teachers to better inform their instructional planning and practice on the grade level teams. I also had the honor and pleasure of engaging with two key parent stakeholder groups over the past 2 weeks at Alta Heights Elementary. I wanted to congratulate our DLAC officers, President Cindy Ramirez, Vice President Roberto Hernandez, and Secretary Elba Marquez, who facilitated one of the best DLAC meetings I've observed in my professional career, and I have been to a lot of DLAC meetings over the past 2 decades. The parents demonstrated such strong leadership capacity and self-empowerment as they navigated their first set of meeting topics for the 24-25 school year. I also want to thank all of the parent representatives who attended the second superintendent parent advisory meeting in person. Both these parent groups, the DLAC and the Superintendent Parent Advisory, had the opportunity to learn about the Alta Heights Campus Modernization Project. We toured the classrooms there and learned how the newly transformed space is positively impacting both the staff and student experience in the classrooms on a daily basis. And lastly, it was already mentioned, but I do want to thank the 3 trustees, President Water, Trustee Gracia, and Trustee Jankwitz, for spending an entire day last Thursday as we hosted CSBA President Albert Gonzalez as we visited those 5 schools that have been mentioned. I was so proud to highlight the Wellness Center at ACHS, along with the CTE facility and the great work that you're doing with the ELD students. Student Trustee Graydon, the special education preschool and letters-trained teachers at Napa Junction Elementary, and the K-12 Spanish dual immersion program that runs from Puebla Vista to Unidos Middle School and then, of course, to Napa High School. As CSBA documented the visit on their communication channels, it was wonderful to observe NVUSD shine on the statewide stage. I was proud to be NVUSD that day, and actually, I'm very proud to be NVUSD every day. With that, I'm going to turn to the assistant superintendents who are going to report out on the work happening in their respective divisions. And we'll start with Assistant Superintendent Dana Page, who oversees the Human Resources Division.
Thank you. Good evening, Vice President Reiser, Board of Trustees, Student Board Member Graydon, and Dr. Massetti. As you have probably heard, there is a little event happening in American Canyon tomorrow. It is the result of tons of collaboration and support from multiple departments, school sites, and department leadership. While students will be taking the day off from school, staff will be learning together at our first professional development day of the year. Approximately 1,000 people will come together first in the ACHS gymnasium to hear our dynamic keynote speaker, Mark Perna. After which we will break into small mixed groups of employees with different roles from various sites and a handful of students and community members to unpack and process Mark Perna's message about unleashing passion, purpose, and performance in younger generations. We anticipate this address will resonate with people on many levels as it applies to our students, our children, and even some of our newest coworkers in the NVUSD. After a full morning and a lunch break, attendees will meet in the afternoon back in the classrooms of ACHS for customized learning sessions. Most staff members will be with their school site, department, job-alike group, or they will have signed up for one of 5 sessions presented by our employee assistance provider, Optum. These courses fit within the theme of creating a healthy and inclusive workplace, including creating kindness in the workplace, improving workplace relationships, building awareness and practical strategies for supporting neurodivergent family and friends, understanding anxiety, and customer service for public educators. The official start to the day begins at 8:30, but there will be pre-event coffee and breakfast snacks in the quad at 8 o'clock. We are looking forward to the opportunity to come together, learn new things, hear different perspectives, and improve our skills as a unified district. Thank you, and this concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Now we'll hear from Dr. Monica Reddy, who oversees the Instructional Support Services Division.
Good evening, President President Reiser, Board of Trustees, Student Board Member Graydon, Superintendent Dr. Musetti, and Napa and American Canyon communities. The Napa Valley Unified School District Instructional Support Services team continues to engage in key strategies with the NVUSD strategic plan with students, staff, and families. I will keep my report shorter this evening as we have a presentation later that will include some of those highlights. On Monday, September 30th, the Special Education Parent Advisory met at Alta Heights Elementary School. This advisory consists of parent representatives from across NVUSD school sites who meet 3 times annually. The primary purpose of these gatherings is to listen to families and identify key areas of focus for our students with individual education plans, aligning with our strategic priority of providing inclusive and affirming spaces for families. This work is critical in identifying and addressing barriers that impact the academic success of our students. During the first meeting, the committee learned about NVUSD's Vision 2040 and built connections to the graduate portrait. They received updates from the Executive Director of Special Education, Terry Lynn Rossetti, and generated topics of interest for the year. We look forward to our continued partnership throughout the year as we engage in these topics of interest with families from each school community. Today, the Napa Valley Unified School District administrators, counselors, teachers, and students attended the Napa Valley College High School Breakfast. NVUSD's partnership with NBC was spotlighted. Members of the New Tech High School Early College Program introduced students from Napa Valley Unified School District who shared their experience taking college courses while in high school. We had the opportunity to share about our progress and expansion of dual enrollment opportunities, increased CCAP funding for dual enrollment, and the opening of the early college at New Tech High School through our strong partnership with Napa Valley College. I'll close this evening by sharing gratitude for the opportunity to engage in listening and learning visits with school site administrators and teacher leaders at Alta Heights, American Canyon High School, and West Park Elementary School during the past 2 weeks. These one-hour sessions are providing rich insights into the goals and action plans of each school site and how the Instructional Support Services team can best support students in student progress and proficiency. I've appreciated observing classrooms at Bel Air Elementary, Shear K-8, and Redwood Middle School, and the opportunity to engage with principals and assistant principals in discussion about high-impact teaching and learning. Thank you to Principal Ward, Hatton, Lindenman, Title, Montgomery, and Hartnack for your leadership and partnership. The Instructional Support Services team looks forward to visiting all schools to listen and learn this semester and engaging in weekly learning in classrooms at school sites throughout NVUSD. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. Assistant Superintendent Rob Manguala, who oversees business and operations, is at a facilities conference tonight. And so we have Executive Director of Fiscal Services, Ms. Jenna Burrows, who will be providing the report on his behalf.
Thank you. October is National Farm to School Month, and NOSH is excited to partner with Donaldson Way Elementary School for a Seed to Harvest event in the school garden on October 18th. Kindergarten and first grade students will engage in an outdoor education session covering the life cycles of tomato and wheat plants, seed counting, high-frequency words, and more. They'll also explore new foods and make pizza with tomatoes they recently harvested. This hands-on experience emphasizes local foods, student agency, and community collaboration. The Facilities Improvement Department is actively working on various projects. The outdoor learning environments and shade canopies at Canyon Oaks are now open for student use. Following a walkthrough, the team generated a punch list of items that the contractor will address during off hours. Sorry, I totally lost my place. Planning and design for summer 2025 projects is underway, including roofing, fire alarm, and HVAC replacements at American Canyon Middle School, as well as an HVAC replacement at Canyon Oaks. The MPR and library at Donaldson Way are nearing completion with DSA design review, and initial civil construction is planned for winter break, starting with the MPR. Additional projects in various stages include the Redwood Middle School back parking lot, roof repairs at Redwood Middle School, Silverado Middle School, and Shear, and the nearing completion of Building E at Silverado, which features new HVAC, roofing, carpeting, and interior paint. The maintenance and operations team is conducting a district-wide tree assessment along with several other projects, including an LED lighting initiative with Vichy Elementary School serving as the demonstration site. Additionally, the team successfully executed another big game last week. The data and assessment team has completed the collection and analysis of fall STAR test results, which Dr. Aboud and Dr. Reddy will present a summary of later this evening. Open enrollment and registration for the 2025-26 school year begins on October 15th. The enrollment team is diligently preparing to assist families with this process. They've been collaborating with the communications department, magnet programs, and individual school sites to promote the diverse school choice options available to families within MVUSD. The technology department is finalizing the district Wi-Fi project installation with only a few sites remaining. Keep an eye out for upcoming changes in Wi-Fi network names and functionality, which will enhance online safety for all users. The tech team is ready to support staff during tomorrow's professional learning day, so please reach out if you encounter any issues. Lastly, the fiscal services team has welcomed a few new members, including 2 recent graduates from Napa High, which is very exciting. That concludes my report.
That's great, Ms. Burrows. Vice President Reiser, that concludes staff reports.
Okay, thank you. This brings us to the approval of consent agenda I. Background information on these items is provided to the board prior to the meeting. A common motion takes action without discussion on roll call vote unless discussion of items is requested by a board member.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Trustee Gracia, a second from Trustee Hart. Ms. Morales, can we have a roll call vote?
Yes. Trustee Reiser?
Aye.
Trustee Shu?
Aye.
Trustee Gracia?
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz?
Aye.
Trustee Hart?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to J, presentations and discussion items. J1, business services. J1A, fall 2024 STAR assessments baseline data presentation.
Good evening again, Vice President Reiser, Board of Trustees, Student Board Member Graydon, Superintendent Dr. Musetti, and tonight the Executive Director of Research, Data, and Assessment Services, Dr. Aboud, will provide an overview of the fall STAR assessment data, and I will provide an overview of our focus on 2 key strategies to support progress and proficiency in English and math. At the end of the school year, we reviewed 23-24 STAR data. We shared how the data reflects the importance of 2 key strategies outlined in the strategic plan. First, a common vertically aligned TK-12 instructional framework and a comprehensive assessment framework and culture of student data use. Since then, we have started to integrate data and develop the instructional framework. Later in the presentation, I will provide an update regarding our progress with these 2 strategies as we aim to support students' progress and proficiency. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Aboud to present the fall data.
Last time we matched with our glasses, and today we're matching with clothing. All right. Good evening, everyone. Before we go into the Fall Star baseline results, I'd like to take a few minutes to review some of the essentials of STAR testing. As a reminder, the STAR tests serve as our reading and math screeners and are part of what will become a more comprehensive assessment system in support of strategy number 3 in our strategic plan. This is a summary of the grade levels which take each of the assessments. Students in grades 3 through 12 take the STAR reading test. Students in kindergarten through second grade take STAR early literacy until their reading abilities develop enough that they can be reliably assessed with STAR reading. And typically this transition happens in second grade. And students in grades 1 through 12 take the STAR math test. Here are some of the key data points that we've looked at in the past and we'll look at again this evening. First, the scaled score. Students who take a STAR assessment are given a scaled score based on the number of questions answered correctly and the difficulty of those questions, and allows us to compare student progress over time and across grade levels. Next, we have the percentile rank. Students are given a percentile rank indicating the percentage of other students nationally who obtain scores equal to or lower than that of a particular student. So for example, a student in the 35th percentile in STAR reading performed better than 35% of students nationally in the same grade level as that student who took the assessment at that same time of year. Okay. Our Renaissance then categorizes students based on their percentile rank. Students who score better than 40% of students nationally in their grade level at that time of year are considered at or above benchmark. There are 4 total categories ranging from at or above benchmark all the way to those in need of urgent intervention who are scoring below the 10th percentile rank. And it's important to remember that students are expected to earn a higher and higher scale score as they progress through their learning. So for example, a 6th grader who took the STAR math test in the fall needs a scaled score of 1026 to be at or above benchmark, and that minimum scaled score increases over time. And by that time that 6th grader takes the test in the spring, they'll need a scaled score of 1049. Okay. And before we look at the percentages of students who scored at or above benchmark, I'd like to highlight a significant change in how Renaissance Learning determines a student's performance level. Every 3 to 5 years, Renaissance re-examines the results of students across the nation and re-norms the national cut scores, which you saw on the previous slide. Okay. So they take all the student performance data from across the country and they determine which new scaled score results in students scoring in the 40th percentile or above compared to their peers, and that becomes the new cut score for being at or above benchmark. So they do this for all performance levels, all the tests, and all the grade levels. This is important to do because the new cut scores will reflect any changes in trends across the nation, and the new cut scores were established starting with this fall of 2024 for that screening window, and it's the first time the cut scores have been recalculated since after the pandemic. So these new cut scores now reflect the learning challenges that students across the nation have been experiencing since 2020. As you might expect, because of the impact of the pandemic, the cut scores for nearly all grade levels and all assessments have gone down. And so tonight you'll see percentages of students at or above benchmark, which is higher than what we have typically seen in the past. For that reason, we cannot make valid comparisons between the percentages of students at or above benchmark in the fall of 2024 to any previous screening windows. But there are, however, some ways that we can look at some multi-year comparisons, which I'll talk about later in the presentation. I also want to point out that the new cut scores based on these new national norms have not impacted the state cutoffs, which predict performance on the CASP, or the student growth, or the SGP, which I'll talk about later in the presentation. Okay. So a little context there. And now we'll jump into the results. Here we see the percentages of students scoring at or above benchmark based on the new national norms for STAR early literacy in kindergarten and first grade. And as you may recall from previous presentations, second graders take the STAR early literacy or the STAR reading test depending on their skill level. The switch from STAR early literacy to STAR reading is generally recommended when a student reaches a certain scaled score on the STAR early literacy test. And this slide summarizes the number and percentage of second graders with a scaled score at or above that cutoff. So you can see that this last fall, 40% of students met this minimum requirement, and that number, last fall it was 40% of students meeting that minimum requirement, and that number increased to 42% in this most recent screening window. We'll now switch from STAR early literacy to STAR reading. This slide shows our fall baseline results in STAR reading for 3rd through 5th grade. What you're looking at is the percentage of students who are considered at or above benchmark, again, based on the new national norms. And here we have the middle school grades and high school. And we now switch to STAR Math. Here we see the elementary data. Here we have middle school and high school. And so even though we cannot compare the percentage of students at or above benchmark to percentages from previous screening windows, we still wanted to get a sense of how our students have been doing over time. And so this slide shows the average scaled score in STAR reading by grade level for the fall of 2024 compared to the average scaled score for that same group of students from the fall of 2023. So we're talking about the same groups of students here. So for example, the average fourth grader this year earned a STAR reading scaled score of 960, and that same cohort of students earned an average scaled score of 907 in the fall of 2023. The slide also indicates the increase in scaled score points and its comparison to the expected increase in scaled score, again based on the new national norms. So continuing to use fourth grade as an example. The average fourth grader increased by 53 scaled score points when that expected increase was 49. And so our average student increased an average of 4 scaled score points in excess of what is expected across the nation. You can see that in general, the average student is experiencing an increase in scaled score points above the average across the nation at all grade levels, with the exception of 7th grade, where we're short by 1 scaled score point. And then on this slide, we see similar data formatted for the STAR Math test. We see growth in excess of what is expected across the nation, especially in 9th grade. We see 17 scaled score points in excess there. The exceptions to this are 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I'm actually going to pass to Dr. Reddy to speak in more detail about these particular results.
Thank you, Dr. Boone. Over the past 2 years, as a part of the board annual priorities, we're focused on support in mathematics and key transition areas from 5th to 6th and 8th to 9th grade. We have brought 5th and 6th grade and 8th and 9th grade. As you can see in the slides, we are seeing either consistent expected growth or significant improvement in 6th and that significant improvement in 9th grade. So as a result of that, we reflected on the strategies that we've used, some of which are bringing together 5th and 6th grade teachers and 8th and 9th grade teachers to ensure vertical alignment. We've provided in-class coaching to all teachers and engaged students in standards-aligned assessments that model the CASP and analyze the data to make adjustments to instruction. Because we're seeing this expected or more than expected growth in 6th and 9th grade, we have expanded these strategies to grades 7 and 8, as well as teachers of Math 2 and Math 3. So that would be mostly students in grade 10 and grade 11 because of this success, in hopes that we can see more than expected growth or expected growth in those grade levels.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Reddy. Here we show the percentage of students at or above benchmark based on the student groups. As we often see, our multilingual learners, students with IEPs, and students eligible for free and reduced lunch perform at lower rates than our overall population. Our redesignated students, however, actually perform at higher rates than our overall student population. And before I talk about student growth, I'd like to remind the board and community of the definition of the student growth percentile, or SGP. The SGP indicates the percentage of students nationally at the same grade level and with a similar score history as a particular student who grew less than that student over a defined period of time. So for example, a student with an SGP of 60 from last spring to this fall grew more than 60% of students nationally who had a similar score history as that student last spring. Students with an SGP between 35 and 65 are making typical growth, while those with an SGP below 35 are making low growth, and those with an SGP above 65 are making high growth. And again, note that even with the new national cut scores, nothing has changed with how the SGP is calculated. So this data point has not been impacted by those new cut scores. Overall, just under 2/3 of our students made typical or high growth in both literacy and math when compared to their peers across the nation, which is similar to what we've seen in previous screening windows. And I want to emphasize that growth is not the same as proficiency. Students who are making typical growth may or may not be considered at or above benchmark. And when we look at SGP by student group, we see that typically about 2/3 of students are still making typical or high growth on both assessments. The only exception here is our students with the IEPs on the math test, where 55.9% of students are making typical or high growth. Here we look at the percentage of students making typical or high growth for each test broken down by their performance level on this most recent screening window. For both literacy and math, the vast majority of students who scored at or above benchmark are making either typical or high growth. And as we work our way down the performance levels, that percentage decreases and the percentage of students making low growth increases. As you know, we can look at the STAR data based on the national norms, or we can look at it based on the state cutoffs, which predict performance on the CASP. Once again, the new cut scores I talked about earlier at the beginning of the presentation do not impact these state cut points. So no changes to this data point. Since the state cut points are not impacted, we can compare student performance across multiple screening windows. And this slide shows by grade span the percentage of students who scored at standard, met, or exceeded levels on the STAR reading test last fall compared to this fall. So as you can see, our baseline this year is either slightly higher than the previous, is either the same as or slightly higher than the previous year's baseline data. And similarly, for STAR Math, we see baseline data virtually the same as or higher than in previous years. And with that, I will pass it back to Dr. Reddy to close us out. Do you want the clicker?
So in review of the fall 2024 data, we continue to support our theory of action that if we develop and implement a TK-12 vertically aligned instructional framework that includes structured, aligned lesson plans, literacy activities, and high-quality interactions through guided practice, we will see progress and proficiency in both literacy and mathematics. Over the past 4 years, we have built the foundation that will allow us to engage in this work because of the board's adoption of core curricular resources aligned to the Common Core state standards and drawing a focus to the importance of literacy and mathematics for all students with special attention to our multilingual learners. An instructional framework provides a consistent, cohesive, and aligned structure composed of research-based elements that support student learning. Within the framework, teachers implement instructional strategies in response to assessment and data analysis. This is an example of an instructional framework called Gradual Release of Responsibility. You can see that there is a structure of I do, we do, you do it together, and you do. Within this content, instructional strategies and assessments are determined by the teacher, so there is flexibility within for teachers' decision-making while also providing consistency across our systems. The Napa Valley Unified School District Instructional Support Services team, with the support of the data and assessment team, developed and launched a new meeting structure called Instructional Leadership Team. It's composed of over 100 district and site administrators, special education coordinators and program specialists, interventionist teachers, multilingual learner leaders, MTSS leaders, and union leadership. This team meets monthly to develop MVUSD's instructional framework, aligned with the district's commitment to excellence and rigorous relevant learning experiences. Through this process, we're focused on developing a cohesive response to the essential questions. What is effective teaching? How do we ensure effective teaching is happening every day in every classroom? And what is the role as a leader in providing effective teaching and ensuring that it's happening? As we advance this work, it's important to note that this is not a matter of whether effective teaching and learning is currently happening in MVUSD. It is about the degree to which it occurs. We're seeking to increase our precision, consistency, and sustainability for every student in every classroom. We're focusing on consistency and precision in 3 key areas: what we teach, how we teach, and ensuring that students are engaged in reading, writing, and speaking in every class. We believe that by building the capacity of our administrators and teacher leaders in these 3 areas, we will positively impact students' progress and proficiency. Currently, as we engage in this work, our focus is on developing our understanding of guaranteed and viable curriculum. Guaranteed assures us that specific content is taught in specific courses at specific grade levels, regardless of the teacher to whom a student is assigned. Viable indicates that there is enough instructional time available to actually teach the content identified as important, as referenced by Dufour and Marzano. The use of student data and assessment is a key element of an effective instructional framework. Over the past 4 years, we have grown our understanding and usage of screener data through the consistent usage of STAR reading and math. This work will expand as we build a comprehensive assessment framework and culture of student data use. In order to implement, monitor, and respond, we need a comprehensive assessment system that provides us the data to respond to student needs through continuous improvement structures and systems, including MTSS and professional learning communities. A comprehensive assessment framework consists of 3 different types of assessments. We will first build our collective understanding of a comprehensive assessment system and the importance of assessment in supporting student progress and proficiency. This is an example of an assessment of the different types of assessment within an assessment system. A universal screener assessment provides the skills and measures if students are at, below, or above grade level. It allows us to get diagnostic data to then look deeper into what students potentially need. We have this TK12 that we use 3 times a year, our STAR reading and math. The second type of assessment is benchmark assessments. These are standards-based and measure learning of the priority standards, ensuring that we have guaranteed and viable curriculum being implemented every day in every classroom, and identifying where students have gaps and meeting that standards grade level curriculum. And lastly, common formative assessments monitor the skills and standards-based assessments within the classroom. These are very important to timely responsive feedback, and they're developed by teachers and schools to measure that ongoing progress. Professional learning communities are a key structure in continuous improvement. We are supporting the strengthening of our PLCs through a 3-part professional learning communities leadership development workshop for teacher leaders and administrators from middle and high schools across math, science, English language arts, and world language departments. These workshops, guided by Dr. Michael McDowell and Executive Director Matt Manning, are designed to strengthen instructional practices and improve student outcomes through the collaborative work of PLCs. These are outlined in our collective bargaining agreement, and these 4 questions plus 1 are what our teachers will focus on as they look at student data. We will look at what do we want all students to know and be able to do. We will examine how we will know if they have learned it. We will talk about how we will teach it at grade level and how we will respond when some students do not learn. And lastly, how we will extend the learning for students who are already proficient. You've heard often about learning sprints. We are aligning our learning sprints to these questions so that teachers can engage in this cycle of examining student outcomes through these particular questions. The workshops consist of 2 parts. There's a morning session focused on building the capacity for data-driven, student-centered decision-making to improve student achievement. The first session introduced participants first to the PLC mindset and the use of student data to guide instruction at grade level with support. This initiative directly supports the use of data regularly amongst our teachers. The second part of those afternoons, and as we go out and engage with principals at sites, we're engaged in deepening our understanding of what is called the instructional core. One of the most important parts of teaching and learning in a classroom is ensuring that the task is at grade level standard and that support is provided within the classroom so that students can access it. In order to build our capacity to ensure that that is happening in the classroom, we're conducting classroom observations, district and site level administrators together to learn how to engage in discussions and conversations where we're examining what is the task that is being asked of students, is it at grade level, and how is it being supported at grade level? What are our students engaged in? Are they reading, writing, listening, and speaking often in every class, every day? And what is a teacher doing to ensure that that's happening? We're learning a lot as we go out throughout these observations, and I appreciate the work of our principals as they engage in this learning with us. We're excited to launch this work and provide you updates as we engage in our 3 times a year of giving the STAR assessment data. It's been exciting to start, and we look forward to providing you ongoing updates. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reddy and Dr. Aboud. Questions from the board? Trustee Jankowicz?
Thank you, Dr. Aboud, and thank you, Dr. Reddy. What Dr. Aboud has detailed for us is that the inputs that we are using, our students' information and how it's been formatted, is working to, over time, ensure optimal output. And in the example of STAR, that would be the student scores. Our new baseline data is going to act as a compass, our starting point, to give us a statistical understanding of where our students are internally and in comparison to state and national standards. The importance of the data before us tonight is not just the monitoring of progress, but also assessing the impact of our instructional practices and interventions. Like all the work we do, grounded in data, this is going to hold us accountable. But what I am most impressed by is the targeted work by instruction in conjunction with research, data, and assessment, and intervention and prevention to painstakingly dissect the data to define the need, determine the approach, determine the approach and design the execution throughout the system. And we are seeing the very beginnings of this massive lift. Our system, our practices are being scrutinized in order to understand what is needed to optimize student achievement. And tonight we saw it represented in percentages. There's also great scrutiny around test scores, as we all know, externally and internally. And knowing that we are starting to move the needle, seeing percentage increases, including the understanding that testing has measurement error, fluctuations in student performance, and regression to the mean. So when we see consistent percentage gain across grades and subject matter, it's encouraging. STAR testing represents a lot of human work translated to statistics. This data will continue to assist instruction in making informed decisions about instructional priorities and our instructional framework for students and sites and the district as a whole. We are immersed in that work now, and everyone needs to read the All Divisions newsletter to explain the work that's being done. And I understand the hard work ahead of us, and I appreciate that you are laser focused on increasing the learning opportunities for our 16,000 students. The last 7 slides spoke to approach. So I'll end with one question. Do we monitor how the curriculum lands in each classroom and each site, and then use that data for comparative analysis and leverage the strategies that are working? And can this be done, on a year over year to identify patterns so that we can continue to optimize the data and obviously what happens in the classroom?
So over the past 4 years, we've been building that guaranteed and viable through the focus on building the priority standards and ensuring that that what is taught at each grade level aligns through the system and across the system. And then providing resources, curricular resources. Elementary had 2 resources in place, Bridges and Benchmark, and adopted the science curriculum. Secondary did not. And so that's why it's so important that over the last 3 or 4 years, the board's adoption of those curricular resources to ensure that our staff have those resources aligned to teach those priority standards is critically important. So that work has built a really strong foundation for us to do exactly what you're saying, which is now go out into classrooms, observe the implementation of those priority standards across the various classrooms, have conversations with our principals and start to monitor the implementation of those. It doesn't mean that those curricular resources replace priority standards. We teach the standard, but it does provide evidence when you walk into a classroom and you see, is Carnegie Learning Out? Is that the resource that's being used? Is Bridges being used? We know that using all 3 components is critically important to students' trajectory in mathematics. So we now have the resources and the development of those standards and clarity to be able to go monitor progress, and we've started to do that work.
And thank you both for the presentation this evening.
Okay, other comments from the board? Questions? Trustee Gracia.
Yep. I just want to say thanks for continuing to break down the low growth students versus high growth students in conjunction with their level of achievement. I continue to appreciate receiving that data. I look forward to seeing how the STAR results change between this test and the next one. And in light of how the change in data is reporting, I'm going to suggest that we get a midterm report this year in addition to the finals, since we don't have prior years now to compare. So that's my request.
Okay, other comments or questions? Trustee Chu.
I think I say this every year, is I love how data-driven the district has become, because you can really see the impact that we're working towards, right? So the one that stands out to me is the student group growth data, where we see increases across all different student groups. And I think that really highlights the fact that we are prioritizing all of our students who need the help. I mean, I wish that the other, table with student group data for students at or above benchmark were just the same. But I think, it's really hard to expect that our students who really need that support to begin with to jump so far ahead, right? To meet the benchmark. especially since we have a lot more what do we call it? Newcomers coming into our system, and dealing with the effects of the pandemic. So I'm really happy to see that we are making that growth and that we are prioritizing, I think, what we should be doing so everybody is getting that equitable support.
Thank you, Trustee Chu. Anyone else on the board and trustees? Well, I just want to say thank you so much for that thorough presentation. And to just highlight, I think it's pretty telling that the national renorming indicated a lowering of scores across the board. And what that speaks to is that this is not, the struggles that we're having in showing the growth that we're hoping to see are not unique to our district, that students across the country are still, and teachers who are trying to help them learn are all dealing with the same gaps in learning and the kind of coming back from that experience of the pandemic, which feels like a long time ago, but when you're looking at, the school career of a student and the learning and, I just think that's really telling. And I just want to second what Trustee Chu said about the student growth percentages, and that is such an important data point, and that we are seeing high growth in 60-ish% across every group is really a bright spot. And lastly, I'll just conclude by saying that I really appreciate the way you tie the presentation on the student data and our most recent data with this larger instructional system change that you are undertaking. And I'm echoing Dr. Reddy's phrase to say, you go slow to go fast, but I want to thank you for being so strategic and purposeful in setting out, and it may feel like it is slow because you're starting at this foundational level and building these structures up, but the other things and the way the system has been in previous decades is not delivered for our kids. And so you're taking it on at the foundational level to really get to the nitty gritty about how are we going to help those kids that are not making the high growth. So thank you for that intentionality and strategic approach. And do we have, Mr. Michaels, now that we've heard from the trustees, do we have any public comment on this presentation?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much, Drs. Reddy and Aboud. And now we have a presentation and discussion item J2A, Instructional Services, the introduction of core and supplementary instructional materials adoption recommendations for high school.
Thanks for giving me a minute to switch. Okay, so tonight we have the introduction of a couple of instructional materials as we expand our focus on career technical education and look to align it with our general education. We are putting forward two instructional materials that will support a new theater class. That is focused on more than just the performance. It's focused on the aspects that you don't often see on the stage. So students who may not be interested in acting will have the opportunity to take a course, if approved by the board, that engages them in the other components that bring that production to life, such as sound, lighting, set design, construction. And so these two resources will help the theater director at Vintage High School launch this course with a focus on supporting students who have interest in different areas. The second two, we had at American Canyon High School last year, our students for the first time take the advanced placement course who were participating in the Mandarin course at at American Canyon High School, and they were quite successful. And so students who are engaged in the higher level of courses at American Canyon High School, they would like these supplemental materials to help provide them additional support as they prepare for those assessments within their coursework.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Gracia?
Yeah, I am kind of excited that we're developing this CTE pathway that incorporates this learning through the visual and performing arts. I think that's a neat way to get people who are interested in our VAPA programs into a career and technical education pathway. So I like that.
Other questions or comments? I guess my one comment would just be, I know that we are, this is under consideration for Vintage High School is who brought this, this request. And I did speak with Dr. Massetti about this, and she said, well, once it's on the adopted list of materials, then any school can use it. But I guess I do wonder or have a question of, is this something that we would consider offering to our other, I know that we only offer Mandarin at ACHS, but for the drama textbook, is that something that the other high schools can avail themselves of?
Yes, we moved, when we redesigned the curriculum council, we moved to putting forward courses for all high schools. That does not mean that they have to put them into their master schedule or have them UC A to G approved year to year, but it does allow them the option to do that. So as we explore this, there's some work that our theater director is doing at Vintage High School around, it requires set design. And so there's safety protocols embedded within the course. And so they're really piloting it. But given that our other high schools also have musical productions that are very large scale community events, I could see the potential of this growing to our other high schools, and they could, if approved, if the course is approved, they can add it to their master schedule from year to year, depending on student interest.
Great, thank you so much for clarifying that. Okay, so Mr. Michaels, is there any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, seeing none, that moves us on to K, action items. K1A, Human Resources, agreement with Solano College. Is there any public comment for this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a first by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Hart. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, K2A, we have a public hearing and adoption of resolution number 25-07, certifying compliance of Education Code Section 60119 and Education Code Section 60422. So the hearing is now open. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you. The hearing is now closed. And now, can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, first by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Hart, and this is a roll call vote. Ms. Morales, please.
Trustee Reiser?
Aye.
Trustee Xu?
Aye.
Trustee Gracia?
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz?
Aye.
Trustee Hart?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Morales. Okay, K2B, new high school course of study adoptions.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Hart. Student Board Member Graydon, I'm sorry that I've been neglecting to ask you for your vote, but this is my first time presiding, so.
Aye.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Is there any public comment on this item?
There
Mr.
is
Michaels.
no public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 2C, Student Data Privacy Agreement with Brisk Labs Corporation.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you. Student trustee Grayden.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. K2D, Agreement with Coloma Outdoor Discovery School.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, student trustee Grayden.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Okay, K3A, Operational Services, FMO 08.01.202, Ratification of Agreement with Cintas.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment for this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, student trustee Grayden.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion passes. This brings us to L, informational items. L1, general services. L1A, curriculum and student support committee. There are no minutes attached. General services, L1B, facilities and technology committee. There are no minutes attached. Item L1C, finance committee. Again, no minutes attached. And General Services L1D, Policy Committee, there are also no minutes attached this time. Informational L2A, Business Services, the warrant register for accounts payable checks issued by NVUSD. Do we have any public comment on this item, Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment on this item.
Any comments from the trustees on this? No? Okay. On to M, additional suggestions and comments from board members and superintendent. Anybody? Okay, item N, future agenda items. Any suggestions from the board? Okay, that brings us to item O, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.